Hi everybody, this is a quick few slide video on what makes a good case study. If you were in class and we had this discussion, that's great, but I wanted to give you a little bit more information so you knew kind of what elements make a good case study. So the major project in this course is designing and participating in a case study research project really that ties organizational theory. I would argue that the journal that we're going to look at is Journal of Cases in Ed Leadership. Almost everything in that journal really relates to organizational theory. I like this because it makes you isolate your theoretical framework and manage it at a micro level. So we're going to talk about the different approaches to case studies throughout this class today and what really are necessary. If you're watching this video, I would encourage you to look at the Elements of a Good Case Study by Fossey and Crow. It's posted online, so go to your D2L site and download it. Take about 10 minutes to read the article and look for key elements that you think are necessary in the case. So we have 4 elements of a case study. We have content, complexity, ambiguity, and relevance. So content. You must have a describable element in your case that is easy to follow and understand. It has to have rich contextual details describing the organization both internally and externally. When I say that, one of the things that I always try to stress is the notion of that external environment, because I think you have to show really, what the school district looks like. What are the key stakeholders in the community? The internal environment is fairly easy. It's probably a district you've worked in, a district you've lived in, so you can do that. So if you have the opportunity to describe your context, you know what your context looks like. I do for some of you, but not for all. So you have to be specific in your descriptions. What that essentially means is you have to think about this and write at basically an 8th grade level. I want to be able to close my eyes and understand what you know about your organization in the context of the case that you're going to be describing and defining. So, complexity. These case studies should honestly be very, very, very difficult. There aren't any perfect answers when you're doing a case study, and if you do it correctly, that's what it should be. I want you to think about how you would handle these things in your context and in your organization. If it's a school finance issue, it's going to be black and white for most of them. Most school finance issues that people write about are actually law school finance issues. So that doesn't make something for a good case. So try to come up with something that looks different in a different organization. Because you want people to be able to see, well, this would look like A, B, and C in my district versus what it looks like in this case study and in your district. You have a complex organization. Every organization is complex, but you have to make sure that the complexity factor is highly defined. You're going to be the people that lead school districts, and there's a much higher probability of that because you're in the state of Oklahoma with a lot of school districts. We have over 500 school districts. So try to think of different contexts in order to understand your questions. Ambiguity has to be something that can't be answered. Schools are complex, so you have to be ambiguous in your approach to them. You have to have a problem that isn't easy to solve. If the problem is easy to solve, then it's not going to make for a good class discussion. So this journal really does that, and I read it cover to cover every time that it comes out because it can impact how I teach all of you what matters in schools, and also it can impact what you do and how you interpret problems. So ambiguity is fairly important. Remember the audience you're writing for. You're writing for educational leadership faculty members who might be teaching a principalship class or a superintendency class. So relevance. This case has to matter. Fossey and Crow use the word "so what" when they are speaking about cases. So anytime you write anything, I want you to be able to come back with it and say, so what? What does this mean? How does this impact how I'm going to teach? How does this impact how I'm going to be a principal? How does it impact how me as a future superintendent is going to hire a principal? Issues have to be relevant to what schools are facing right now, and that's important. So there has to be a solution, but it should be your own personal solution. Discussion questions frame the case. If you write those first, that'll help you get the idea of what direction your case is going to go. So come up with ways to make these really the first things that fit within your interests so you understand what the discussion questions are going to be. So that's it. I wanted to give you a basic, brief little video on what a case study looks like in case you missed class when we went over this. So now you have it, and hopefully that helps you when you're looking at case studies.